Hi, Bill. Thanks for joining me today. How are you doing?
Robin, always good to join you. I'm doing well. It's a hot one out there, Robin. Man, I'm one of those cold weather guys. I cannot wait for autumn to get here. How's things on your end?
Hot. I'm red-faced. We're going through another heat wave in the UK. It's currently, 95, according to the thermometer, 95 Fahrenheit, which is too many Celsius. These
That
buildings are
is, yeah.
designed to keep heat in because it's cold and wet and awful. So I can't wait until autumn comes about so we can frolic in dried brown leaves and
There
enjoy
you
our
go. That sounds good.
PSLs and smile and
That's
take it easy before the December season creeps up on us and drains the
that's
bank account.
true. Yeah,
That's the
soon
way.
enough.
But anyway, Bill, what's been keeping you busy recently?
Well, I've been having a little bit of fun lately, Robin, in spending some time on the dark web. It's always an interesting place to be. Be careful if you're out there. But taking a look around, I actually saw something recently that caught my eye, and I wanted to share it with you a little bit and talk a little bit about maybe what that has to do with organizations. So, you've heard of the application called Telegram, right, Robin?
Oh, indeed. I believe we talked a little about Telegram last week as well. So
We
nice
did.
end to end encrypted conversations only used for legal matters.
Of course.
Of
Of
course,
course.
of course,
Well,
naturally.
what's nice about it though is it also has functionality, although it's kind of a chat functionality. But you can essentially create, I think, for lack of a better term, you can call them channels where you can put posts out there and people can reply and so forth. So, yeah, multiple uses for this one, and the fact that it's got the end to end encryption ensures that all of the legal things that are being done are protected. But let me tell you what I found actually on the dark web. So there was a Python script that was advertised by an individual called First Comment. And I was intrigued by that. What does that actually mean? So, this Python script is specifically written for Telegram, and it could be yours for the very, very low cost of 66 US dollars. So, you can just buy the script and you're good to go. So, of course, I've got to know what this thing does. What does this script actually do? So I find out that the script can actually attach to, any active or dot session accounts in Telegram. And here's what it does, Robin. When people make new posts on Telegram, it can make the first legitimate comment on that post automatically. In fact, it can even do more than that. It'll even tie in with ChatGPT and
Mhm.
it'll make the first comment and it actually looks intelligible. Right? It doesn't look like something that's scripted or whatnot. We'll even utilize spin tags to kind of vary the text a little bit to avoid detection that it's actually a script. It's a bot, right? That's making the first comment.
Mhm.
So there you go. That's something that it can do, and it'll even take a delay function so that it becomes comment number two or number three, whatever the case may be. So naturally, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, why? But
Mhm.
what's the point, right? Why do we want to do that? Well, I didn't have to go very far because the turns out to be a threat actor is very descriptive on the things that it can be used for. And what this script can actually do is, after it lays that comment down, it'll sleep for a while, and then it will change the content of that comment into an ad. All right.
Oh.
Right. So now it's
Oh.
an so now we have an ad. And of course, that means that subsequent readers who begin to go down through that thread are going to see that ad. They're going to see that it wasn't removed from the post. So, sure, it seems like it's legitimate. And they
Mhm.
may potentially even click on it, and boom, there you go. Now, look, Robin, this is nothing that an individual user can't also do. We know this, right?
Mhm.
But what I found interesting about it is it's a script, it's a bot, and it can do it really fast and really broadly. So that's really the advantage of the script. And, you know, I got to thinking about all the possible uses and, happened to be having an online conversation with a threat analyst recently. And this analyst said, Bill, Telegram really is the new dark web.
Mhm.
And I thought, boy, I'm sure the folks at Telegram aren't thrilled with that. But yeah, so this is again for $66. Any potential threat actor, even script kiddie, can pick this up and begin to do some pretty interesting things with Telegram in trying to direct traffic over. So, of course,
Mhm.
why do businesses care? Right? Sure, we understand end users, but why do businesses care? Well, obviously, this could lead to things like credential theft. It could lead to pulling down malware. It could lead to any number of things. And so, what do organizations do to protect for something like this? For $66, right? A threat actor can go do this, and we're going to fall right back to what we've always said, Robin. It's a secure web gateway. If you want to
Mhm.
prevent your users from accessing Telegram, we can utilize CASB to ensure that if they go to Telegram, it's a certain full path URL. Use an intrusion prevention engine to analyze the DNS requests coming out of the ads. There's a number of protections, but we need to be aware of this. Simply looking at some of these things as end-to-end encryption, as we talked about in our prior episode for chatting, that's one thing. But the fact that these chats can be non-ephemeral chats, essentially posts and comments, that's a great opportunity, right? It's essentially an attack surface
Mhm.
that can compromise your end users. So just wanted to kind of share that with folks. I think that's something to be aware of, and having a solution to protect not only your traditional organizational assets, but particularly your remote users who are bringing their own devices, maybe already using these applications when they're onboarded. It's going to be very important to have that full context sharing capability available to identify when things like this happen. So yeah, that's the latest one from the dark web for you, Robin.
Yeah, I loved your sentence or your statement that Telegram is the new dark web. I love
Mm,
that. I love that. I would go as far as saying that there's no such thing as the dark web anymore. It's the grey web. The regular internet, there's so much illicit activity happening in plain sight and plain transaction that it's getting easier and easier to both deceive and to conduct illicit activity across
right.
public channels. In the
That's right.
past, you'd have to use like Tor nodes or onion routers or really kind of hide away from the public internet in some form. But
That's
now
right.
that most of these exit nodes are being monitored by services, and there's
Sure.
no legitimate reason for people to be accessing it. And I say that in a very broad sense. The majority of
Yeah.
people using Tor are generally up to no good.
Mm,
It's easier to hide in plain sight. And even with just switching the comments, you can see people's Twitter or X accounts frequently being hacked and then wild illegitimate URLs are being posted under the guise of legitimacy, and people are clicking on that. So
right.
it's nice to see that people are exploiting now the free accessibility of the internet. It was
I love what you just said when you said gray web and you talk about legitimacy of traffic. I think of various ephemeral operating systems. I think of, like you said, the onion router and the fact that it gets monitored for illegitimate activity. And I think we need to color that in a little bit more, Robin, because sometimes what is considered illegitimate activity is maybe illegitimate under the letter of the law, but it could also be journalists trying to communicate from an oppressive regime. So
Mhm,
socially speaking, it may be acceptable. And so whether you're talking about threat actors or you're talking about folks who are trying to further the social good, they all have seen the effectiveness of sort of creating
mhm,
that gray web, like you said, right,
mhm,
where legitimate applications can be used for good or for harm. Look, there's a lot of debate going on in the United Kingdom right now concerning end-to-end encryption and being able to monitor that for noble reasons, Robin, but
mhm.
also that breaks down the sense of privacy. So yeah, I think you're
Indeed.
right. I think it's very interesting the way this continues to evolve. I think it'll always do that. And just threat actor 101, right? When you go to school for threat actor 101, I'm sure there's got to be a college course out there for threat actors.
I'll
But
sell
but
you one
threat
if you'd
actor,
like.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But threat actor 101 says, look, don't come from a malicious URL, right? The people are going to know that. Don't either. You don't want to be obvious. You want to be as inconspicuous as possible. And you call to mind, Robin, and I'm sorry to go off on this diatribe, but I loved what you said. it brings to my mind the fact that we have so many folks who make massive investments in cybersecurity, but they don't inspect any of their encrypted traffic for their business. And I think,
Mhm.
well, how do you think the threat actor is going to get in, right? That's exactly the channel that they're going to want to take. They're not going to come in plain text where you're going to catch it, right? You need to start thinking about this from a much more holistic standpoint. And of course, the privacy versus security discussion is going to happen. So, yeah,
Absolutely. Remember, there's a reason we call it a Trojan horse or a Trojan,
that's right.
because a shady payload is encapsulated within something that looks lovely. And the same happens
Absolutely.
with HTTPS. I
That's
myself
right.
was in a discussion with a security practitioner 2 days ago now. Sunday, yeah. Recording this on a Tuesday, yeah, that makes sense. And he said that about 40% of his traffic will not be inspected with TLS inspection. The organizational policy says that you cannot decrypt that traffic and it has to remain end to end encrypted. And to me, that sounded like a very conflicting environment because the
Mm,
traffic that he didn't want to inspect has the significant business impact, the largest business impact. So that if this was hijacked or stolen, it would have a significant financial impact on the bottom line and would probably lead them to being in the papers and having news articles
mm,
against it. So, in
right.
many ways, having that level of trust to decrypt the packets, to inspect the data, and then have visibility and control, it's a lot safer than leaving it sealed up. So, yeah,
That's true.
that,
That's true.
that challenge between security and privacy, and depending on what you should do and what you are doing, that's a constant challenge and fight in the security world.
It is. It is. Well,
Mm.
very interesting. So, I mean, you sounds like you were talking to a threat analyst, a security analyst. Sounds like you might have been doing some exploring yourself this weekend. Tell me what you
Mhm.
found.
Yes, yes. Well, this weekend I was just talking to somebody about the Cyber Book of Knowledge, or CyBOK. There's a new version, a new framework of the CyBOK out. There's lots of different types. So we were looking at the different tiers, the different approaches, and reviewing some of the recent addendums as the overarching Cyber Book of Knowledge. If folks aren't aware of that, you can Google CyBOK, cybok.org, and there's tons of great resources if you're starting your way into the world of cybersecurity. So
Love it.
good. So this information is open source online. It's free. You can go and look at it. They're freely giving it away. But you know what also is freely available on the internet, Bill? Have
Talk
a
to me.
guess. Oh, personally identifiable information, usernames, passwords, and more.
Yes. Yes.
So, what languages do you speak, Bill?
So, I'm a native English speaker. I also speak French and Norwegian. Those are my three, and a little bit of Hebrew, but nothing to brag about at all.
You forgot one language. You forgot the language of security. I caught you. I caught you.
I'm so ashamed. I'm so ashamed.
I got you. Now, the language of security is something that people learn. And if you're picking up Norwegian or French or English, it doesn't just appear to you. You have to do spaced repetition. You have to learn. And one of the great ways of learning is a platform like Duolingo. So
Oh yeah,
myself, I use it I'm learning Swedish, I'm learning Japanese. It's great. It's a great platform to slowly give you new bits of information as time goes on.
sure
But
is.
that freedom of accessibility is a little bit of a challenge. So recently, there was a handy dandy breach for Duolingo's data.
Mm,
Now, 2.6 million user accounts or user data sets were released and came across or was posted on a fun website called the Breached Hacking Forum. Now, the Breached Hacking Forum, don't go and Google it, don't look it up, it's full of nonsense, don't do it. 2.6 million user datasets were on sale for 8 site credits. Now, 8 site credits, if you wanted to just buy the $2.6 million, that translates to $2.13 for 2.6 million user datasets. And there was a
wow.
lovely, lovely, shiny post, and I quote verbatim: "Today, I have uploaded the Duolingo scrape for you to download. Thanks for reading and enjoy." That is the handy dandy post. Now, if you wanted to
Wow.
purchase it, you could do it directly through the forum's e-commerce site, or you could use Tox. You could send somebody some crypto, some way to get that data. Now, this is a bit of a scary thing. Duolingo is trusted. Duolingo is one of the biggest language learning sites everywhere. You have the mobile app, you have the websites,
Mhm.
and you have all of those memes where the Duolingo bird breaks into your bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning because you forgot to practice your beginner Spanish that day.
That's
Now,
right.
now this data, this all of this sensitive, really deep dive stuff was scraped using just an exposed API interface. So a little bit
Right.
of code, a publicly accessible. Now, this API interface had been shared openly since I think March of 2023. And researchers tweeted repeatedly on how to use the API to get your data out. Now, this API call, this programmatic call, allows anybody to submit a username and retrieve a simple JSON output, a plain
Mm.
text formatted output containing the user's public profile information and some extra bits. However, it's also possible to feed an email address into the API to confirm it's associated with a Duolingo account. So
Right.
even if you don't know, you can say, hey, is Bill a Duolingo user? If the answer is yes, then we can extract more information and from that start moving forward to be socially engineered.
Right.
Now, I know a few of the listeners might be thinking it's public profile information. Why should I be worried? This is information we're freely giving to the world. What do you think the pain points are, Bill? Why should people be concerned?
Well, this is kind of the first step on so many different things. On credential stuffing, it certainly is a revelation of private information, right? Your name tied
Mhm.
to an email address. Boy, we've only just begun now. Now we continue to use open source intelligence, tie it to social accounts. Robin, the possibilities are endless.
They are, they are. And people have been taking those credentials and doing exactly you mentioned. They're doing credential stuffing. They're trying the same password on multiple different sites to see if you can get in. Maybe if you have access to an email address or you know an email address is compromised, that's just another step to exposing that data. So the more you know about person, the more you can use against it. And it's Duolingo is currently aware that's available. The website has been scraped, but it's not just Duolingo that falls foul to these plays.
That's right.
Website scraping or credential scraping, just going and grabbing as much data as possible from a location is
Mm,
valuable. Now, it used to be, if you were cycle back into the 1980s, you had the idea of a jock going to the nerd and saying, oh, give me your dinner money or I'll punch you.
right.
Now it's the other way around. Now it's the nerd threatening the jock of give me your data money, otherwise I'll expose your email address, your personal account information, where you live, who you live with to the world, and I will dox you. I will
Mm,
expose you that way. So those folks now have the power. And the more data you can take from these websites, the more it can be used against. Now,
right.
I remember a few moons ago, do you ever remember a social network called MySpace?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember that.
MySpace.
Yeah.
Yeah, way back when. They had a scraper issue very similar. So
Yes,
people
they
could
did.
freely download all of the profile information in a handy dandy plain text format that you can then send to somewhere else. Now, MySpace, for those who are either not social media during its heyday or were born after its demise, because unfortunately, Bill, children born in 2003 are now in their 20s. So,
That's right.
yay. It makes me feel old, even though I'm not too old.
Right.
So all of that data was taken from a social platform, and this was in the era where people weren't really aware of what to share on the internet and what not. There
Oh,
wasn't
of
that
course.
level of social etiquette. So people
Sure.
were posting the names of themselves, their pets, their brothers, sisters, families, their thoughts, their hopes, their dreams, and their fears. And all of that could be freely scraped from the internet. Now, if I was to intend you harm, Bill, and I was to gain all of this data, you are now a target for me.
That's right.
I can build up a great social engineering case or a personal case to either extort you, blackmail you, or provide or get enough information to start what's the word? Attacking your business.
Mm,
Everything
hmm.
you put out there will be used against you. But
Right.
scarily, people don't expect this with Duolingo because hey, I'm just trying to learn a new language and it's
Right.
hey, what I'm saying, Bill, is I'm just scared again. I'm
No,
scared.
I
I'm
get it.
scared, not panicking.
This whole topic of API security, and look, I'm trying to take the human part out of it because I don't want
Mhm.
to shame anybody, but clearly a decision was made to expose a public API where there's PII. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, but API security is it's so important. I mean, you're essentially leaving a port hanging out there in effect, right?
Yes.
For people to plug in and off they go. My goodness me. Between exposed APIs or those who expose their keys by putting them on public cloud providers, I used to have hair, Robin, and it just I don't. I pull it all out. I don't understand that. So yeah, I'm a little puzzled.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to take a sip of iced tea and think it over.
If I had $1 every time somebody sent me an API output with a private key already embedded in,
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'd have enough to buy quite a few lattes. Not enough to
I,
retire on, but hey,
sure,
it's scary. It's scary. API security is something that is becoming an expanding area of concern in the cyberspace.
most definitely.
And you have companies establishing, I'm not going to mention companies' names right now, but if you just Google API sec, they drive a very compelling argument that as everybody moves more towards an AI focused or a GPT
Mhm.
style focus,
Mhm.
automation is key. And we all
Yes,
know that the CLI of yesterday is dying. So
right.
in the past, it could have been that if you wanted to get into networking, you do your basic entry cert, you sit in the CLI, you do all of the coding, and then when you're finished, you become a terminal jockey. But that's going
Right,
away. Everything's
right.
being simplified.
That's
But the
right.
next iteration, or the network architects of yesterday, or the terminal monkeys, are now becoming coders with the rise of CloudFormation or Terraform or
There you
Ansible
go.
or API. All of this is the new future. So we need
That's
to
right.
start looking at API security as part of the holistic view around security. So
Mm.
once you've adopted a full SASE model, I don't know, I'm bringing it back to SASE. You know, I love SASE. I've written the book on SASE.
Of course you do. You wrote the book.
Once I wrote the book. So if once you've adopted that converged model where you have your networking and security together, you still need to understand what are the touch points for API. You need to look at your supply chain to understand all of your vendors in that supply chain. How do they do API security? What level of data access do they have? And slowly but surely build up that granular picture.
That's right.
But unfortunately, Bill, it all does boil back down to educate your users
It
because
does.
it's far, far too easy for people to give away the keys to the castle. No matter how
Yes, it
good
is.
your portcullis, no matter how strong your drawbridge, if somebody says it's safe and they've been duped, then humans will break it down.
Robin, you get a $50 bonus today for using the word portcullis. Well done.
Oh,
Well done.
thank you. Thank you. It was my word of the day.
There you
Fantastic.
go. That's right. That's right. No, you're very right.
Indeed. Okay, Bill. Well, thank you for today. It's been good. And
Always a
until
pleasure.
next
Yep.
time, you stay safe out there.
Take care, Robin.